Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Voles can destroy your flower bulbs. Today we're going to build bulb cages to keep them away. Also, we'll be talking about fertilizing trees. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Joellen Diamond. Joellen is the Director of Landscape at the University of Memphis, and Wes Hopper will be joining me later. Joellen, always good to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So we're going to build cages.
Yes,
All right.
wire cages.
Why are we building wire cages?
Well, I don't know about you and a lot of the other homeowners, but voles invade my yard, and
mine
they
too.
love to eat things like tulip bulbs.
Yes.
Which is getting time to plant tulip bulbs. And you want them to come up in the spring, so you have to protect them.
Okay.
Also, some lilies. Voles love lilies, and hostas.
And hostas, that's right.
So this is my father's.
Yeah.
It's been cut in half because I didn't need it as long as he had it. The other half of this has a hosta in it at my house, buried in the ground. And what we're going to do here is we're building a box with a hinged top on it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll bury this in the ground. You'll plant either your tulip bulbs or any plant that you want to protect from voles in it. You cover it and wire it together, and then you bury the whole thing in the ground. So you can make these any size you want.
Okay.
This happens to be the size that I need for what I'm doing. Plus, remember, the whole thing has to be buried in the ground.
Yeah, has to keep it.
So you've got to dig a lot
Yes.
to get this in the
Yes.
ground. So whatever you build, you have to bury.
Okay. So guess what? Let's go ahead and start building that cage.
All right, let's
All right.
do that. And so this is actually 24 inches long and 12 inches wide.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that I have this cut and I've cut these, and what I did is to make them, I tried to wear gloves. There's a lot of wires here. You got to be very careful because there's little ends
Yes.
on the wires that I have had to cut off, every single one of these, so that it is less sticky.
Okay. Yeah, don't
But
grab
you have to
those
be very
gloves.
careful because you are working with wire.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that's how I cut off all
And I
of
guess you have to have
those.
proper tools too as well, right?
Yes, you have to have, I use these nips, these wire nips, and then I have wire cutters, my tape measure, my marking, because what we're going to do now is divide this up. I've marked 6 inches here, 6 inches here. We've got to do the last 6 inches so that we can have places that we can bend. We know how to bend it to get that size and make the box with a permanent marker. It'll go away eventually. So now what we need to do is bend it along these marks. And the easiest way I know how to do that is to simply put the wire at the edge
Got it?
of a table and bend it. Once you get it started, you just make sure you can bend it there.
Okay.
And it's wire, so it's flexible.
Yeah.
Then we take the next one and we bend it.
Bend it. All right. It's bending pretty good. Okay.
Then we've got our last part here.
Last bend. All right. All right.
And that's it bending. And as you can see, it kind of makes a box.
Yeah. There you go. I think that looks good, Joelle.
But to form it, to give it the better shape, and to also, I mean, if you If you just put this in the ground, the voles are just going to go, oh, what a nice highway.
Just go right in.
Yeah, so we got to put stuff on the end. Now, and this is about 1/2-inch gauge wire. There's the holes in our 1/2 inch because you've got to give enough room for the plant, either tulips or these are lilies. The stem has got to be able to fit through this wire.
Right.
So 1/2 inch is about as small as you can go and not have problems with your bulbs or your plants coming up through it. So we don't do all 3 sides, but we will do these. And I just simply wire them together. Now, you can use any kind of wire you want. I happen to have a bunch of this florist wire.
Okay.
So to me, it is easier to use this. And what I do is I simply start it here and twist it. And then I use this like you would a needle and thread.
Got it.
And I just simply thread it through here. And this wire, florist wire, is thin, so it threads nice and easy.
Goes right through. Okay, so just go all the way across.
All the way around.
Okay.
Again, be careful. It's sharp. And since it's not long enough, you just simply get another wire, if you can pick it up off the table, and attach it to this one. And you keep going. And as you see, then you get to the end. And you could just leave this to attach the top lid to it, or you can cut it off, whichever one you want to do. I think I'll just leave it, so we'll attach the lid to that, and then we'll try to do this other side. And as you notice we're wiring this to the side, but we're not wiring the top up because you have to be able to open it to put your bulbs in. So you only are fastening the sides down on 3 sides. And I imagine the florist wire will not last as long as the other wire, so you may have to rewire it again. But you're not going to just put it in the ground and leave it. You'll probably be digging it up occasionally. So, there we go. Now we've got our box. And to fasten it down after you probably need to make sure it's flat because you don't want any spaces left. I'm going to cut this one off now because I want to use this end as a tag. You've planted it in the ground. You've got your bulbs in it. You put the dirt over the top of your bulbs. You get the dirt to the top of the basket. You put your basket over, and I usually fasten it on all 3 sides.
Okay.
And you just do something like this and make sure the wires stay down. I fasten them on this side. And then you can do 1 or 2 more on the front. And this should be enough to keep the voles out of here and your
how about that?
Your bulbs safe to come up and bloom for you in the spring.
That'd be cool. So how many bulbs would you put in here?
Actually you could probably get 7 of them in here, or 5. I mean, the bulbs themselves don't get more bigger than like here or here. You could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. You can put them almost on top of each other together. Like these are lilies, and of course I don't want to take them out of the pot, but the voles love lilies, and so what I'm planning to do is after I bury this in the ground, I put dirt in here. I will take these out of the pots, and I'll probably put 2 of these per cage.
Okay.
So but then just remember, you can't leave these in the ground all the time. Tulips, more like annuals here in this part of the country, but you can leave them as long as they're still producing bulbs for you and flowers in the spring. The lilies, when they keep dividing, they're gonna keep dividing in the cage.
cage,
So you're
okay,
gonna have to
gotcha.
dig them up every few years and divide them and make more cages.
Make more cages. Okay, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I guess at some point you had to train the plant to come up through.
No, you don't have
don't
to
have to worry
train
about
it.
that? Okay.
No, Mother Nature will do that for you.
Good.
But you just got to remember that these stems of the tulips will come through this 1/2 inch.
Okay.
And they'll just come up. You'll never know this cage was underground. But the voles will not be able to eat your bulbs.
And that's the key, right? We don't
It
want
is.
the voles to get in there to
Right.
get this delicious
Yes.
meal, right?
Yes. So you'll have blooms in the spring or in the summer.
Joel, we appreciate that. It's pretty neat.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So from Pops
Yeah.
to yours,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. Thank you much.
You're welcome.
This one was a tough one. This blackberry plant is, looks like part of it is dying. You notice the leaves turn brown here, and then on the tip, you got 6 or 8 feet of vine here that appears to be healthy. The only thing that I can figure out that it might be is sun scald. This vine does better when it's shaded. It's not used to being in the sunlight, and the afternoon sun is beaming right on this vine right here, and I think that's probably what our problem is. The backside of the vine appears to be more healthy, and there's enough xylem and phloem back there on the back to provide water and nutrient exchange to reach the rest of this vine. Shade cloth might help, but that's what I think it is, sun scald.
Hi, Wes. Man, we out here, we're talking about trees a lot, right?
Yes.
The question we usually get is about fertilizing trees. So what is the best way to fertilize trees?
There's a few different ways to fertilize trees. First, let's start off with the time of year, the pruning.
Yes. Okay.
I feel like it's best to fertilize at the beginning of fall.
Okay.
And also in the early spring. But let's go back to the late fall. You want to get your pruning out of the way. Go ahead.
Okay.
If you're going to prune the tree, do your pruning first. Like remove some of this growth that's coming off of it right here if you don't want it.
Okay.
Kind of thin the tree out just a tad, just to get rid of some unnecessary growth or dead branches. And then come in and let's do some fertilizing.
Gotcha.
Take a look at this root system that we have here.
it's pretty
I mean,
impressive.
we can actually see these roots. There's a reason for that. Some of these roots are growing in a girdled fashion. That might be due to the excessive mulch that has been used over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess this tree to be about 10, 12 years old, roundabout.
Okay.
This tree needs deep root injection. You could do a granular, just spread it out over the ground. That's not going to go very deep. It's probably going to end up down here for the grass.
Yeah.
You could do a drill hole method where you could take and drill holes in it, just get a long auger bit, and you might get caught up in some roots. So that's not necessarily the best way, but it works.
Okay.
You know, just drill some holes and pour you some compost or some good organic material, organic fertilizers down in there.
So we use the organic material though. That's something we rake, you know.
You can
just
rake
over those holes.
Yeah, just
So
you can pour it in there depending on what type of mixture you're
Gotcha.
using. Is it going to be in the powder form? Is it going to be in a liquid form? Or is it going to be like in a dirt form?
Yeah. Okay.
On large trees, we've done vertical mulching where we've used an actual auger like what you use to put in fence posts.
Okay.
In vertical mulching, we drill these holes about every 3 feet apart to, just to create some airspace, and then we backfilled with some organic compost.
Okay.
Or sometimes you can put rocks in there just to
How
create
about
the
that?
larger airspace.
Okay. And the roots are going to move into that
Roots,
space, right?
that's what you want them to
Right,
do.
gotcha.
They don't always
Makes
do
sense.
that. So, my best practice for deep root fertilizing is to inject the soil with a liquid fertilizer that you inject into the soil at a PSI of about 125 to 150. You can even go up to 200. I know
Wow, how
people
about
that go
that?
up to 200.
Okay.
So think about this, as you're injecting that nutrient fertilizer, the organic fertilizer into the soil, you're going to want to use a slow release too. I'll explain that in just a minute.
Okay. Okay.
But as that PSI, that 150 PSI, goes into the ground and it pushes that soil out. It creates an air, water, nutrient space. So it creates space in there. So like with this soil right here, take a look at these roots. They're growing right on top of the
Yes,
ground.
they are. Yes.
You're not going to find very many of these roots down low. I promise you. This soil is not it's good for willow trees and stuff that we have growing around us. Those are wet bottomland type trees. This is a maple. It's a bottomland tree too, but it's planted in a manicured landscape.
Right.
So with that injection, you're going down 6 to 10 inches down, and you're injecting fertilizer, airspace. You're going to start promoting this tree to go to where that water and nutrient space is.
Gotcha.
So the roots are lazy. In this case, they're staying on top of the ground.
Yeah.
They're growing down the hill. They're getting mowed over.
Yes.
So now we're going to, as this tree grows, you're creating that space, and it may take several years for this to happen, but you're going to get a root system that's going to be down, and you're going to mitigate the soil with your organic fertilizer and other products that you can inject in here. Let's say, for example, you put the fertilizer in the soil and your pH is off. So that creates that buffering capacity to where even with the nutrients in the ground, the water's in the ground, that buffering capacity prevents that tree from being able to absorb it through its small feeder roots.
Okay.
The feeder roots are like hair roots. They're real
Yeah.
small, like our hair. So you want to add something to the soil that's going to change that pH. Usually it's going to be lime that you want to add to it. Okay, that takes a little bit of time for a tree to change that pH, but you just have to do it. Something else to add to your mixture of fertilizer is mycorrhiza, a mycorrhiza inoculant. And you can get it in either an Ecto or XO type mycorrhiza formula. In this area, we're going to have Amanita, Rosapolgan, different ones like that. There's different species of those two right there.
Okay.
But what that mycorrhiza does when you inoculate your soil with it, it actually works symbiotically with the feeder roots. It grows, and its mycelium grows, and it attaches itself to the feeder roots of the tree, and now it's feeding off the protein of the roots. When it sheds basically its scale or its bark off, it feeds on the proteins produced by those roots, and in turn, it works as a sponge, and it pulls the water, the nutrients
How about
into
that?
the tree where
cool.
typically, before the mycorrhiza was there, it wasn't available to it.
Okay.
So they kind of work together.
Right.
And research shows that trees that have been inoculated with that mycorrhiza are much healthier than a tree that hasn't been inoculated with it. So it's very
Oh,
beneficial.
that's good.
Yeah, mycorrhiza.
That's good. That's good. Let me ask you about this again because you mentioned it. So one more time, I usually get a lot of questions about, so I have my roots above the ground. How can I encourage those roots to get back down in the ground? Will they go back down into the ground?
Not
some of the things that you're talking
typically.
about?
That's a very good
like
question.
this,
So what we want to do with that point, since you've mentioned that, that's a very, very good subject right there. You want to get down and close with the tree and pull this back. This is going to require a tool.
Yeah.
And these roots that you see right here,
Okay.
follow it back to where it originated. So that root might have come from this side of the tree.
Yeah, looks like
So
it did.
eventually, as this tree is growing, it's not growing vertically with the tree like those, it's growing across the tree. So over time, as this girth grows here, it's going to attach to here because this root's going to grow too.
Gotcha.
And it's going to end up girdling this side of the tree. It may graft into it being a maple tree, or it may not. It may just cut the circulation off right here. So after you trace that root back, wait until the winter time when all the leaves are falling, all the nutrients are dropped back down into the root system for storage. You might want to cut that root off.
Wow, okay.
And don't use an axe, don't use a chainsaw. Find out where it's at and try to use some hand tools so you don't cause damage to other parts.
Okay, gotcha.
And then you come back over here to this other side and work on these roots that are closer to the trunk on this side. Because you see now, we got two sides of the tree that are potentially going to be girdled. Cut these off over here. And you don't want to go crazy just cutting all the roots off, but you're going to have to at some point
Right.
for the tree's health.
Right.
I
so
would
the
say
but the
that-
tree will still be okay because I'm
should
sure
be.
people are listening to you like, okay, you're
I'll
going to
just
cut
cut
that
the roots.
You just cut roots.
Well, you can cut the branches out of the tree. Why can't you cut a few roots?
All right, there you go. There you go. Okay.
You know, I mean, the roots
There you go.
serve a distinct purpose. You know, conduction, storage, anchorage. So you want to be cautious on which ones you cut off.
Okay.
But once you get where you feel like you're comfortable, you're not taking off too much. It'd be like me going to getting a haircut and they cut off too much. I'm not going to like it.
Yeah.
The tree will tell you it won't like it either.
Right.
But you get out here and you see these growing on top of the ground.
Yeah.
Let's use another example. Imagine this is at your grandmother's house, and your grandmother walks on a cane or a walker, and she can't go out into the yard because you got all these roots. So just after you start promoting the root growth down low, think about either adding just a small layer of sod or some topsoil and maybe some sod on top of it. That way you're hiding the roots. Now, I've done this before with a maple tree. This maple tree had literally taken over the front yard. So we can do some root pruning on it, and I was in discussion with the landscaper on this. And while we're looking at all these roots on top of the ground, and I look at the neighbor's yard next door, and I said, got an idea, guys. We're going to not worry about cutting all these roots. We're going to add and smooth this out with a little topsoil or organic good soil, and then we're going to put sod on top of it, and then we're going to be done with it.
Wow.
So that was the easiest solution.
So that doesn't smother the roots?
If you put too much of dirt on top of it, you're going to change your water flow and everything else, so be cautious. Once you get over, let's say 4 inches of fill, you're going to start cutting off some of the airflow or the oxygen supply that gets down deep. But that's where that deep root injection comes from, because you're creating new space down there for your air water nutrient.
Wow.
And do that on an annual basis. Just include that in on your tree budget.
Okay. Put it in on your budget.
Yeah.
And one more time before we have to leave. So the best time to fertilize is?
Late fall or early spring.
Late fall, early spring. Thank you, Wes. Appreciate the knowledge as always.
Thank you.
What we have here is Japanese privet. It's an invasive species, and you must get rid of it if you have it, because it just goes everywhere. They have the seeds of this and the berries. The birds eat it and they distribute it everywhere. So that's why it's gotten so invasive. We're going to cut it down, and we're going to show you how to get rid of it. The first thing we're going to do is just cut all the branches off to expose the stems that are still left that are in the ground. There, now all the top foliage is gone. If you want to get rid of this and you don't want to put any kind of chemicals on it, when it keeps coming back, just keep cutting it down, because you've got to get rid of the carbohydrate reserves in the root system. But if you want to use some chemicals, use some glyphosate and paint it on the tops of all of the stems. I'm literally going to get a paintbrush and paint the tops of where I cut all of these stems. Now, even though we have done this, this plant was very, very vigorous and growing. It's got an extensive root system. There may be some part of the root system that's going to try to attempt to come back up. We will just simply cut it, paint it again, and keep going. Just keep watching it.
All right, Joellen, you ready to have some fun?
Yes,
All right, this is our Q&A segment. We have some good questions here.
sounds good.
All right, here's our first viewer email. What is causing parts of my spirea to twist and turn silvery? And this is Mary from Atlanta, Georgia.
The only thing that, when it's silvery, the only thing I can think of that would cause a plant to be silvery is powdery mildews.
The only thing I can think of, right? Because it also causes twisting,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
You know, the stem of the foliage.
Uh-huh.
Right. So yeah, you have warm, humid weather,
Yes.
right, and poor air circulation.
Oh gosh, yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Powdery
and-
mildew loves
And
those
from
conditions.
what the picture, it looks like that it's a very thick plant.
Yeah.
So, you know what? She might want to, after it blooms this next spring,
Okay.
I know she's waiting for blooms.
Yeah.
This is spirea. Go in and take a third of the stalks out,
good,
the older ones preferably, and that'll give more air circulation
I like
through
it.
the plant so that maybe she won't have that problem next year.
That's right. I think that would work. Yeah. So that way you don't have to worry about using the fungicide per se. You just go
No.
ahead and just, like you mentioned, thin it out a
Yeah,
little bit.
Thin it out.
Allow for good
But after, I would let it
circulation.
bloom because it's right this time now is set blooms for this next year.
Yeah.
And so I would want it to go ahead and bloom, and then I would thin it out.
I like that suggestion. All right, so there you have it, Mary. Thank you for that question and for the picture as well.
Yeah, very
Thank you
nice.
much for that. All right, here's our next viewer email. What is this on my peas? And this is Tammy from Somerville, Tennessee. All right, so what did you make of that?
The first thing I thought of was aphids, even though it's kind of
aphids
hard
to
to
me.
see.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, I can't zoom in and
Right.
really see, but that's the first thing I thought of was aphids.
Yeah, I thought of aphids too. So the leaves, left behind some slimy debris on the stems, and the neem oil did not work. I would think neem
I would
oil
think it would.
work.
Yeah, I would too.
Good contact activity,
Yeah.
on those aphids. I would think neem oil would work. Read and follow the label on that. Insecticidal soap is something else you can use,
Yes.
or how about just grabbing the hose and just
Yeah, you can
just blasting it
blast
off
them
with
off.
some water.
And if she really wants, I mean, there pyrethrins,
Right.
a pyrethrin spray, but that would be the last resort of all of those. Even though
Right.
it's pyrethrin spray is considered organic.
Yeah, it is. And with any of, these sprays that we're talking about, right? You're going to read and follow the label,
Right.
There's going to be intervals when you need to treat, for those aphids. But my whole thing is this: for every plant species, there's an aphid species.
There is.
It seems like
There is.
right.
Yeah, and they're all different colors.
They're all different colors, but that's definitely what I think that is. Because I know she said on her peas, there's a pea aphid, there's a cow pea aphid, so I mean, yeah. So those recommendations should help you out, Tammy. Read and follow the label. It's going to be multiple applications.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that question. Joellen, always fun.
Yes, it
Always
is.
fun. Thank you much. Thank you much. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is questions@familyplotgarden.com. And the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. For more information on flower buds or tree fertilizing, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.